back and forth the way it has been.
My connection is still weak. I'm just gonna leave that out there.
I'm just gonna stand right in front of this, you don't mind me.
Oh, that's perfect. Yes. No, that's a great view.
So, oh, here we go. Wi-Fi.
But seriously. No.
And then it never looks completely different form when you're standing there.
Yes.
You know, yeah, I have pictures of the Grand Canyon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh no, that was at I'll bet you anything.
Take care of mine.
Yes. I'm quite proud of this.
Media operation. Yeah.
First time I've ever gone live for anyone or anything.
Alright.
When I saw that one,
It's gonna be shown live somewhere.
On Facebook. Yeah. I think so. I think it's going right now. Actually, I'm gonna check it out. No one would sit here.
No one can sit there.
Probably move the chair at least.
What happens? Will this one?
That couldn't be worse.
That could be worse.
Could not be worse. Let's get that out of the way.
Yeah. Just tempting fate.
That one's actually not so bad. It's not so bad.
This one, try
It might
this.
just be
These two though. I feel like people are gonna see it. Oh no, you roll right there. You roll right there.
That's probably bad.
Yeah. That one maybe.
Great.
Yeah,
Cool. Thanks, guys. See if this thing's working.
Perfect.
Oh, yeah. Right. It's live.
nice. There.
I think I have. Really good. Looks so good. Looks so good.
It's funny. I go to that video.
Cheers now. Where it is. Yeah, moved to Haven, called, texted, apologized that they can't make it. The move to Haven. The rest of the move.
Hey, how are you? I'm good. How are you?
Hey, John. A wag of the finger on the first moment before we even started? Usually you save that for later.
It was all said and done, I guess.
Maybe not a metro taxi.
Thank you.
Or a ride. I mean, could be that simple.
I wouldn't mind.
Hey everybody, we're gonna start getting started pretty soon, but this is definitely a collaborative environment, something where we need a lot of people, their input, their take on everything. So please come up. There's no one in this room. Maybe there's a few people in this room. But I'm certainly not a bike share deployment expert, so I'm not going to be holding any of the answers necessarily. Together, we're going to figure this out for New Haven. So just about 2 more minutes, and we'll get officially started. We'll have a brief presentation for you, and then we'll get going. I clearly didn't bring my book. Krisha, are we recording things? All right. Double check, would you? All right, well, clearly my invitation to come on up has not worked out very well. There is only one person in my front row. But if you guys like to have evenings of dictation, then sure. So good evening. We'll go around really quick and do introductions. My name's Doug. I work for the City of New Haven. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. So Doug, Park Street, and let's also say your name, your street, and the last time you took a bike share system, if there is a date. So Doug, Park Street, Seattle, October.
Pedro, New York City,
It's not a street.
and the last Rutgers Street.
Joan, Hill North, bike, 45 years ago.
Perfect.
Chris, Water Street, New York, and last week, City Bike. Josh, Chapel Street, DC bike share probably 2 years ago.
Matthew Finer, Devil's Gear Bike Shop, never.
Austin's bike share, 1995.
Wayne Davis with the Town Green District here, and I have never taken a bike share.
Never taken a bike share. I'm Ann Chris Farwell. I live on Mr. Place.
Leanne Mullen, Camden, and probably went to DC a couple years ago.
Let's go, Paul.
Paul Chambers, live on Fairfield Street, and I've never done a bike share.
Kobe, I live on Cold Spring Street, and this last summer in Washington, D.C., Capitol Bike Share.
I'm from New Hampshire, and I never had. Monica, I live in Worcester Square, and I've never taken a bike.
Jake, Whitney Ave, and I've never used a bike share.
Tom?
Tom Glendenning, Battery Park City, about 11:45 this morning.
Patrick, I live in East Rock and DC last year.
Holly Parker, I don't live in New Haven, but I took a bike share bike out about a month ago in Boston.
Kevin, Brown Street, Montreal last year.
Jonathan, State Street, not used the bike share yet.
Aaron? Good.
Aaron Good, William Street, Worcester Square. I'm a city bike member in New York. There's my key, regular user.
Paul, and I live on Atwater Street, and aside from using like 3 white and yellow bikes here and there, that didn't work, but elsewhere, no bike share.
I'm Dan Kesbar, I live in Hamden. I maintain the Zaxxon bikes at Yale, so I ride them, but I don't actually check them out.
I'm a slight fellow on Elm Street. I've never used one.
Cody Edson, I live on Farnham Avenue, and I've never used a bike share before.
Joel Lachance, Bishop Street, and I have not used one either.
Megan McNibbins, Barnum Avenue, I've never used one yet.
Melis, I live on Worcester Street, and I've used one in Barcelona like 3 or 4 years ago.
I'm Philip from Orange Street, Philip Peacock, this past summer in Boston.
Michael Amal, live on West Haven, Clark Street, and I've never used a bike share, but I've got several bike sharing programs I've worked with.
Dr. Beckham? Just name, street, and last bike share you wrote on. Yes.
I live over the pizza in the other room. Well, I'm actually
IT, audiovisual. Name, address.
Me, sorry. I'm Krisha Solheim. I live on Foster Street. Last time I used a bike share was in Boulder this summer.
John Martin, Pearl Street, and Boston Hubway.
So thank you everyone for taking time out of a Monday night. I know there's a lot of competing interests. Our goal is to wrap up by about 7:30. That'll leave about 15 minutes of hopefully some chatter, some buzz, and then 15 minutes to get out of here before the library gets upset with us. So as you're probably aware from Facebook or how you found out about this meeting, we are in the midst of a transit study for the city of New Haven. It's called Move New Haven. If you've been to a Move New Haven meeting, could you raise your hand, please? Thank you so much. And through Move New Haven, we are looking at redefining transit and mobility in New Haven, and not just proper, but the region, and focusing a lot on a comprehensive operational analysis of our bus system, specifically starting with bus. But as anyone in this room is probably aware, we all know that bikes can be a great expansion and extension of a bus network, a last mile, first mile solution, and one where we've chosen, and through our efforts to work through our system. Krisha, you're going to keep an eye to make sure the slides are in the correct order? Is that not in the correct order?
No.
Way off.
Yeah. Oh, you just.
So you saw the
shared
whole thing?
everything.
Good night, everybody. So I guess we will need somebody to go over there. I guess my phone thing is not working that well, but let's see if I turn it like this. Oh, there we go. I've got the error. All right, you can go. Do whatever you, sit wherever you would like.
It's a user error.
Like a little bit of a user error, if anybody knows that joke from last week. So we'll talk a little bit. I want to introduce the concept of bike share. I've invited anybody who's in the back. Please do feel free to come up to the front. We're going to try and get to the meat of tonight's conversation, which is how do we in New Haven do outreach for bike share to make sure that we have everyone, enough people at the table, because we're never going to have everyone, but a lot of people at the table, figuring out and helping the system grow and launch in a way that is going to include enough members of New Haven to make sure that it's successful and sustainable. I think that's a big challenge for us. So, let's see if this works. Dang it, I think I did it again. Yeah, I did. The technology is just not there. So what is bike share, right? Bike share for us here, the way that we're thinking about it in New Haven, bike share is an expansion of transit. It's a great last mile, first mile station, but most importantly, it's a way to get more people onto two wheels without the burden of necessarily ownership of a bike, and being able to have a flexible, designable system that we can get around from A to B on. And for us, we're going to be talking a little bit about a survey because we want to hear from folks about how can bike share, fill in gaps in people's commuting options. But most importantly, for us, we want to talk through, what it looks like and what it's looked like in other cities. Let's see, City Bike is not up there, but Next Bike is in the upper right. That's Hoboken, right? Bottom left is Orange. That's Nike. That's Bike Town USA. Bottom right, I think I have notes here.
Zip in Birmingham.
Birmingham, Alabama. And upper left, anybody recognize that one? That looks like a healthcare one.
Right Indigo, that's Philly.
Right Indigo, that's, no?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah. Is that not Indy?
The
Anyway.
top left one is Indigo.
Okay, Indigo, not Indy. Okay, not Indianapolis. So, bike share, I don't have a stat on how many cities and communities around the country have it, but it's becoming much more regular expectation of ways to expand commuter options around town. Most importantly, this is why. It's great. I can't think of a single reason that bike share is a negative. And obviously, I don't need to preach to the choir unless I want to get you to sing, but everyone around this room appreciates that, I think, is why you're here tonight to talk this through. And it's important to recognize that we do have a bike share system in New Haven. We've had one in New Haven since I think 2013. I'm looking around the room for some nods, okay? I've been a member myself. I haven't used it much. Who's been a member of the Zagster program at Yale? Anybody in the room? So a few of us. Okay. So we have had a bike share system in operation in the city of New Haven. And, a lot of people, when Mayor Harper first appointed myself the director of transportation, they thought for sure the first thing we would do would be bike share, you know. But we've come a long way in New Haven. I think it's important to recognize that back in 2008, the New Haven Safe Streets Coalition formed, and a lot of community groups, 3,000 signature petition was delivered to the Board of Alders. And an education campaign came out in the upper left. The Street Smarts campaign was devised by Mayor DeStefano's group and launched in 2009 to help educate folks. In the bottom left, you see the New Haven Complete Streets Design Manual. It was an award-winning design manual back in 2010. At the time, sharrows were novel. That's an important thing to, you know, in this field of transportation in the 21st century, everything is shifting so rapidly under our feet as people inside of City Hall. You know, again, 6 years ago, we thought sharrows were going to save the world. It's an important recognition. But of course, they didn't. And we've gone up, you know, in 2015, we realized that there were a lot of laws that were holding us back here in the state of Connecticut. Thanks to Roland Lamar, Senator Beth Bayh up in West Hartford, Kristen McCarthy-Vahey, representative from Fairfield, we were able to pass the bike bill in 2015. That legalized what you see dead center. You know, contraflow lane that was installed on High Street in 2016. That type of infrastructure was illegal until 2015. Yeah?
What was the word you said a minute ago? Sharrow?
Sharrow. You know those bike symbols with 2 carrots on top? That's called a sharrow. It's a chevron. Thank you.
Sorry.
That's okay. I'm just laughing because I didn't know that. And sharrows were a way to denote to drivers that bikes belonged. And they usually came along with the signage like share the road, which is where the word sharrow comes from.
Is it basically because you don't have the road width, the lane width to put an actual bike lane on, the sharrow is the next best thing?
That's roughly, yeah. Is it the next best thing though?
Can I answer with that? Sharrow was basically a reminder of the laws that the cyclist already had. The cyclist was already best, safest, and allowed to use the road. In fact, the motor vehicle was not the first one on the road. It was the bicycle, the horse and buggy system. But the idea was to say, remember that, you know, we need to do what we got to do, and we hoped it would be a friendly enough way of saying, let's have a little space and not get told to get off the road.
That's exactly right. So, yes, Joel.
I don't want to belabor the point, but I thought the sharrows were just something there to indicate to people that this is a preferred cycling route.
I think it's all of the above, but I think all of us are not happy enough with the sharrows, so I think the point of this slide was really to talk about where we've come from infrastructure standpoint, education standpoint in the city of New Haven. You know, in 2016, we launched the Go New Haven Go bike map. Elm City Cycling published this. Brian Tang helped design it. Yes. We do miss Brian. If anybody doesn't know Brian.
Brian Tang approved.
It's Brian Tang approved. And so all of this is going on. We've got this Edgewood Avenue 2-way bike lane being designed for a really comfortable western route. We have a 2-way bike lane finally installed on Long Wharf Drive. If you haven't gotten over there yet, it's the winter, I can understand, but take a ride. I saw Paul Chambers there not too many Sundays ago. Where did Paul go? Paul Pearl was leading a bike ride over there. So we've got all of this great infrastructure, either on the way, planned. We felt that it was finally time to release an RFP for bike share. So in the upper right, you see a little, thought I was going to have a date on that, but we released the bike share RFP, request for proposal, back in February of 2016. Maybe it was January. Well.
01-1070-2016.
We had a number of respondents. We had 3 respondents. We went through an interview process. The interview committees, if you were on the interview committee or came to an interview, would you raise your hand, please? We had Parks Department, Yale was there, Joel was there, Krisha was there, I was there, Holly was there, even though she wasn't on the committee, but she was there. And we had a number of other folks represented at the table, the Housing Authority, the Parking Authority. We had, not me, but Jim Stanowitz. Were you not in the, okay, that's weird. And so we finally did an RFP process. for bike share, and we had a couple of respondents, 3 respondents, and we've ultimately landed as a RFP review committee on the company that's in the room right now, E3 Think. So E3 Think is Tom, P3GM, raise your hands. Pedro, Chris, Krisha, and they were the top vote getter, if you will, in our RFP review. All of our reviews, our responses, our questions, our summaries, all of which is going to be available for you to thumb through, kind of peruse at your leisure, to poke holes in if you need to. But we've got it all available in a Dropbox for you if you want to take a look at all of our collected work. But here's a lot of our infrastructure, because I hear this a lot that we're not yet there. We're not yet there with infrastructure. And certainly we need to continue to push. Myself can push. Becky in the back who snuck in. Director Bombero from the Parks Department is here. Push Giovanni Zinn and engineering. But we've got a lot of planned improvements coming. And again, this will be available for you at the end. Some of the most desired and weighted projects right now, Farmington Canal Heritage Trail.
Yeah.
We are, hats off to Karen Gilbard for slogging away for 10 years to get the right easements finished. So that'll be very soon. Edgewood Avenue Protected Bike Lane, 2.1 miles funded by the state of Connecticut for $1.2 million. My shop sent up the plans to the state of Connecticut, sent up 4 out of the 13 traffic signals that need to be reviewed. That's a big check off our list. Now we got to do the other 9 and send those back up for more review. Other things that we have going on, as I mentioned in 2016, Long Wharf Drive got a 1.5 mile 2-way protected cycle track installed, but also with it came Water Street off-road cycle facility, a multi-use path, as well as Brewery Street off-road multi-use path as well. That is effectively, doesn't replace, but it enhances the Vision Trail, if you're familiar with the Vision Trail that goes from Water Street over to Long Wharf Drive. And there are some other programs in 2018, 2019 that are major projects. These are only the major projects, things that are planned with state funding through our region. Yes, David?
The green bike lane, how much does that cost per linear foot? How much would 100 yards of it cost? And how long will the tank last?
Sure. $36 per linear foot is the answer to your question.
This is how wide?
What's that?
How wide is it?
It is, what's 36 divided by 9? 4. So it's 8. I'm sorry, it's 6 feet wide. It's about $6 a square foot.
So it's $36 per linear foot.
And that's an overly sized
So
wide.
100 feet would be $18,000?
Yes. So all of Elm Street cost about $30,000. If that's where you're getting at.
Right, and how long does it last for?
We don't know. No one knows. No one's ever done this before. Yes. Yes. So the FHWA, the federal sponsored program, where we did about a half mile of green pavement, that is not something that the city can ever sustain as far as investments. But it was important to do for a number of reasons. On MLK, the speeds are just so high that it's important to have the whole protection. But we engineered Elm Street with the green pavement markings because, again, we had numerous conflict zones, a lot of problems with the bus traffic turning right. And so at Temple and Elm, everything we did on Elm Street was just to highlight the challenges at Temple and Elm. Our CT Transit drivers were reporting numerous violations of people parking illegally, of cyclists then getting confused and weaving, and our bus drivers were having a really hard time managing safety at Temple and Elm. And so that's why we did the giant red bus stop, which drastically reduced illegal parking, which allowed buses to fully get over right and get out of the travel lane, and then marked the green pavement for the cyclists to show where the cyclists go. And then the drivers are now turning right from the right lane almost all the time.
So as the tank starts to wear out in 5 years or 10 years, the city might not have budget money for that high expense without grant money to repave.
That is correct. Well, that is our budget is obviously a reflection of our values in the city of New Haven. And so hopefully in 10 years, our values catch up with our cyclists.
I'm looking through your list and stop me if I'm not understanding all of this, because I'm not real familiar with the ins and outs of streets and whatnot. Where is Hill North in all this?
The end of Howard Avenue?
That's not Hill North, that's Hill South.
Sylvan Avenue is not Hill North?
No. It may be in terms of a map or something, but that's not where the Hill North people live. You know, so what I'm asking you is between Winthrop Avenue, all the side streets in between, Career High, and everything up to the hospital. Where's that?
I don't know. It's not on this map.
No,
It's not on this list.
See, that's what my frustration is with Hill North, Doug, and this is totally divorced from this completely. Is that Hill North is never included in any of this. And I get that we don't have a lot of political power, we don't have a lot of financial power, but at least pretend like we're here.
There are probably a couple other neighborhoods that are not represented, like for instance.
Sure, but I don't care about that.
That's very understandable.
That's their problem.
No, that's really a great point. And these are the major, very large projects.
They are.
So when we're talking about Hill North, we're also talking about bus rapid transit coming on Route 1, coming up Washington Ave. And we're
Okay.
talking about other connectivity issues, especially
See, like tonight would be
walking
a
and
case
biking.
in point, right? I waited for the 522 bus, never showed. I waited for the 540 bus, never showed. And had to get a cab in order to get it.
Right.
So it would be perfect for,
Well, we can talk about the investments I'm making in traffic signals over there, and once the traffic signals come, then we can make
Sure,
better
I get it.
investments otherwise.
Yeah.
But that's a Legion Avenue.
Doug, I was
right
just
now.
gonna suggest, since the library is throwing us out, would it be possible to move, directly to bike share and then?
Sure.
This is fascinating
Sure.
and very informative.
I wanted to make sure that we didn't spend the whole meeting on infrastructure, and so I wanted to kind of highlight
Thank
some of the, no, and this is important stuff. How will bike share work? You sign up for memberships, you find something that's available, you rent it, you ride it, you return it, you lock it. This is what they look like. In fact, you don't have to wait any longer. They're in the room right now. Take a look, 3 speeds, smart lock, which is one of the things that won this organization, the RFP, was their smart lock technology, which we will get to eventually. Here's a design template of something that we expect to see in the field. There's a lot of public approvals that will go with bike share, so there will be a lot of steps in the future with respect to where they go, how they go. There's a lot of them, hopefully a lot of them go in the right of way. A lot of them will go off of the right of way, and set back in places. And there'll be a contract that gets submitted to the Board of Alders, hopefully next month, that will have a very public process. Yes, Dave?
The ballards that you have in the street, what will happen during snow plowing?
Somebody will have to use a shovel and manage these stations.
And if the bikes aren't being used in the winter, can we get those back as parking spots?
Sure, you could, if you wanted to.
Would the ballards be movable?
No. The plan is to have them affixed to the ground permanent,
So they-
temporary permanent.
So they could be a car parking spot.
Well, that's only if you intend not to bike share in the winter. And I think
New Haven rides through the winter.
I quote Matthew Feiner, there's no such thing as bad weather, only bad
Clothing choices.
We're
The New Haven rides through the winter.
In Fairhaven, we have a real problem with parking spots along the end.
So maybe these go on the side street right around the corner. Maybe these go in the 25-foot no clearance, the no standing zones. So you're not allowed to park a car, within 25 feet of the intersection, but there's no state statute preventing a bike share station from going right up to the crosswalk.
you said this is gonna be available to everybody to take a look at. Can we just keep moving along?
Sure, you got
Because
it.
you get into the middle of it and then
Yeah, no, that's fair.
I'm old,
That's fair. What are we looking at? 2017, we're looking at phase 1, 300 bikes, 300 stations, pay per ride, membership, basic guidelines. We're going to be placing them. We're hoping to harness all of this energy to figure out the best places to place them, and we're hoping that you'll go back to your communities and talk to neighbors and friends and figure out, because we're not going to get it all. Obviously, the people in the room are not the experts. The people in the communities are experts. And we've set up a little nifty way to request bike share stations. We've asked you to kind of go to See Click Fix. You can download the app on Android or smartphone. You could go online on the website, and it's pretty simple. If you don't know how to do See Click Fix, stay after. And also, for God's sake, get to 2016 already. Come on. So far, you've spoken. Some of you have spoken already, and have marked these locations. My place of business is there, so make sure that you get your destinations listed as well. So we're going to be asking folks to fill out a survey. If you could, literally right now, take out your cell phone, enter this web address into your cell phone, and fill out the survey right now. That way you don't have to remember to do it. You know, and then push it to Facebook and invite all your friends to do it too, please. The survey, we're gonna ask you very few questions. We just want to get the general gists. But, you know, this example of my commute to work in the morning. You know, I could walk over to Bayview Park, pick up a bike share at Bayview Park, ride along Food Truck Paradise, the protected bike lane, make a left on the off-street cycle track that just got installed, flip around Brewery Street, make a left at the trail, Vision Trail, and shift over, park it at 200 Orange Street, go back to work, realize that I'm obviously late for pizza at lunchtime, get another one, and zip down to Worcester Square, pop it over at Worcester Square, and then head over to Frank Pepe's. That's the kind of concepts of like how bike share can really help us in our day-to-day.
So I'm wondering, let's say people pick up a bike share at the Union Station, but they're coming home and they're not going to be going back to Union Station for 5 days, let's say. I can imagine a lot of bikes would leave the Union Station and some would not come back. How does that work?
So that's the concept. The question is rebalancing. If anybody knows the term in the field, is rebalancing the system. How does City Bike rebalance, and then, or even more importantly, how do we propose to rebalance?
Right, we're gonna have I'm sorry, my name is Pedro Cabasa. I work for P3 Global Management, so we're gonna be the operating partner. We are going to hire a team of locals, both mechanics and the term used is rebalancer. So we're gonna have at least one truck and maybe a bike with a trailer to rebalance. And yeah, we already kind of expect that Union Station will have a huge commuting at peak hours. So number one, the rebalancers try to anticipate demand. So the bikes are placed, you know, early in the morning where we think they're going to be taken from the most, and they will be either picked up throughout the day as they are used and moved around, or in the case of Union Station, we might already know that we're going to need those bikes in the afternoon for the reverse commute, for the evening commute. So that's more or less how it works.
Yeah, so it's human capital in this case. It's humans that are going to fix the system if it gets out of balance in the mornings. And did our Zagster friend leave? Oh
No, I'm right here.
Do you do that for Zagster currently?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
What do you drive?
I did have a pickup truck, but it died on me. It rotted out on me. But now I have a Mazda 5, and I bought one of those things that attach to a trailer hitch, and I just stack them.
Yeah. How many can you carry?
Now 6, before 15.
Okay. Yeah.
Could I point out that City Bike has a really cool program called Bike Angels that Tom can actually explain because he's a member, and that also helps. It gets people who actually use the bike share in New York to volunteer to rebalance the bikes to bring them back to less popular stations.
Yeah, I'm a bike angel because I've ridden over 2,000 miles in New York City the last 18 months. What it is basically, they have designated stations in the morning and the evening where they want to have bikes show up or they want bikes to leave. Like, there's a station right near me in the morning, it's very common, it's down near Wall Street. A lot of people wanna go there, they work there. So they just don't have enough docking stations, which is a fundamental problem with that technology that we don't have, that's a big difference. But, so every time I take a bike out, I earn a point. And I'm up to like 27 points this month, and at 32 points, I get a free membership for a month. So I haven't been paying City Bike for a while now.
Oh, wow.
But I'm the cheap labor.
And one second, would anybody else like a paper survey? I was just handing out a couple papers. Yeah. Yes, Dave.
How does somebody rent a bike if they don't have a debit or a credit card?
It's a great question. So, we are working, actually, does somebody else want to answer that?
You can go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, we're looking, one of the big things, the differences about this program, we really want to highly localize. We want to empower everybody to ride a bike. We're really trying to push the envelope of bike sharing to a place that's never been before, especially like with social equity. As an example, Fairhaven is one of our test cases, partially because it's a nice community, but there is that big gap in between, and there are a lot of people at Fairhaven who actually work at Yale, apparently, the staff.
Yeah, a lot of our population are immigrants.
Yeah.
And lower economic.
Right. So what we're looking at doing at Fairhaven is a couple things. If you don't have, if you're unbanked, is the expression, give iPads to bodega owners, where you can sign up in a bodega owner in a bodega. Also reach out with nonprofits where they have memberships through the nonprofits. So we're really, so the intention is to really enable everyone to ride. And that's a big difference because in most markets, it's typically white male and athletic, and that doesn't work.
In Fairhaven, I can see the need, because the bus routes all are like a carriage sort of wheel downtown. But you can't take a bus from Ferry Street across to Seatown. But if they could rent a bicycle with a basket from Lombard to Ferry, instead of taking an hour bus ride, they can ride the bicycle 6 blocks.
Well, on that
Yeah,
point.
and rent it at Seatown and go home and drop it off at a package store.
Right, so Seatown's a logical location for the station up there.
Well, how do you cover liability if there's no, my understanding was right, because if you have someone's credit card, if they don't bring the bike back?
That we would have to partner with a nonprofit, or there are a number of foundations who we're talking with one major one.
So the bodega would do the rental.
They would provide.
Or the person who would give them cash.
No, they would provide a membership. You would still unlock it using some sort of RFID equivalent or a smartphone.
So a person gives cash to a store owner.
Right.
Who can unlock the bicycle.
No, they give the membership.
Give the membership.
Yeah, you could unlock the bicycle that way too.
And then when it's returned.
You don't have, you just have to sign out on your phone, or if you don't have a phone, then you go back to the bodega, something like that.
So if the bicycle is damaged, typically if you use the credit card, it charges you for the
Right.
credit card.
In this case, if it's, we're assuming there may be an undocumented population in Fairhaven as well, and so it's those things we have to work out, but the intention is to cover everybody. I think also one of your points about the groceries, one of the big differences with this type of a bike, if you look at other smart bike companies, one is one we use in Hoboken, another one is I've worked with in Hoboken, where they have the smarts actually on the back fender. Well, that's a fundamental problem, and this is, using this system, you can actually stick a basket on the back fender, which means you can carry more groceries. One of the problems with a lot of the bike systems out there, they don't have a lot of carrying capacity. This one is designed to have much more carrying capacity.
That's what I've always seen is the drawbacks on most of the rental bikes you see, the share bikes, is they don't have a basket.
Right, we wanna.
And most people don't have panniers.
Yeah.
You know, so like, you need to provide baskets, you need to provide a safe way for people to
I think an important-
efficiently carry packages without worrying about it.
Yeah, I think an important point we might have skipped on is that different than Capital Bike Share or Hubway or City Bike, these are smart bikes. So when you rent a bike out of Hubway or Capital Bike Share or City Bike, you rent out of the dock. So once it's the dock that recognizes your key or you as a member, and the dock releases the bike. Once a bike is released, that bike is lost for the operator until it's returned. These bikes have a 24/7 tracking system within them. And if the bikes are moved without permission, or they are taken outside the system, or they are taken for a really, really long ride, then the operator will be notified and he will be able to track and pick up the bike.
So what's the reader of the tracking system? A smartphone or a service company that reads where the bike is tracked by?
You use the device on the bike, correct?
Right. So if we go back, if we go to the,
Sure. The pieces?
yeah,
Pieces of a smart bike?
you want to take that one, Tom?
Depends. Oh, that? Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's the smart lock. But if you want to actually see it, you can see it. The technology provider provides apps which enable you to see where it is. You can see it on a phone, or you can see it on a desktop. If that's answering your question.
One of the
Right, yeah, you can track it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, on your phone
Right.
or
Yeah.
a service company can track it. for you.
Right. Well, it'll all come through them, and it's basically you have the user data and you have the operator data.
And one of the benefits, of course, is that the city and anybody else who wants the data as far as usage data, we will periodically report and open up data sets that will show you where people bike in town. So as a planning tool, this is exceptionally helpful as a planning tool to find routes that are perhaps not getting enough attention in town.
I'm assuming this is all gonna be multilingual.
Yes, including our survey, which is encuesta. That's
Well,
in Spanish.
at the shop, we deal with 7 different languages on a weekly basis.
We will likely be in bilingual, and as far as all of our printed materials, but unfortunately, we're going to have to rely on a lot of translate.
Okay.
And
Well,
there's
we use, like,
17.
yeah.
There are 17 very popular foreign languages spoken, 16 foreign ones. Anyway, there are 17 very major languages spoken in New Haven.
Yeah.
Wow,
And so we're just going to run out of room.
that's amazing.
So I'm happy to hear there's been some talk about equity here. There are no people of color in this room?
Yeah, there are.
Oh, good, sorry. But it wasn't obvious to me. So, in the future, as we go forward, I think we obviously need to go into the neighborhoods and take more opinion. But having heard about, there is this commitment to equity, and maybe that will include subsidies and things for these nonprofits. I am interested in knowing about time limits and pricing, because I saw one thing up there, which is surcharges for over 60 minutes. Which I don't really know how it's done elsewhere in the country. That seems fairly short for the number of stations that we're gonna have and the size of the city. And also the notion that someone may, come in on Shoreline East, wanna take a bike and bring it back in the evening. So I'm just curious about the pricing structure and the time limits.
And just to piggyback on that, if I can, I take the bike, I go to the store. Now, there's no store near Hill North, right? It can be anywhere from 15 to an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my hour, So to piggyback on that, I gotta be able to have time to get to the store, shop, get to the bike, and get back home, or get to the docking station.
Well, let's make sure that there are docking stations where you go shop. I think let's cut that off at the pass.
But how would that figure in with the hour?
Well, again, if there's a station at your grocery store, so I don't know if you're gonna go to
You're
Seatown
gonna
or
dock
Howard
it and
Ave,
then it, okay.
or are you gonna go to the Stop and Shop on Whaley, or which one are you gonna go to?
I prefer ShopRite, but hey, I'm cheap.
Fair enough.
Would it need to be near her house so she can get to the grocery store?
We've already assumed that based on the fact that she's riding the bike in the first place, I think.
Yeah.
I think we've assumed that it's one's near your house.
Yeah.
So then we also need to make sure there's one at your destination, and that's what
Okay.
this survey is gonna help us inform us.
And getting at the destination and parking the bike,
Mhm.
then I can start on a whole new 60 minutes?
That's correct.
Oh.
So,
okay.
why doesn't one of the providers talk about time limits?
Yep.
If I could, as opposed to me.
So I think this outreach, this is the first outreach session we have. The idea is that in the next 2-3 months, we have lots of these ones. And so we actually, on purpose, didn't set a specific time limit or specific prices, because we wanted to sort of be out here and talk to you and talk to the community. And then how we price it is just, it's really flexible. Like it can be, so there are systems in the US that go 60 minutes per day, and then you can have 4 15-minute trips in that day, or 2 30-minute trips. Others have unlimited 30-minute trips or unlimited 45-minute trips during the day. And then you could have even packages where you have like a normal package and a deluxe package that has more minutes. We do have the ability to charge per minute, this surcharges. So one of the systems we run charges per 30 minutes. So if you go over 1 minute in your ride, you get charged for the whole 30. With this technology, we actually have the ability to charge per minute. So that should also help. So the short answer is we don't have the pricing yet. We are a for-profit company. So we want to have a price where a lot of people can ride and a lot of people can use it and a lot of people can be very happy with the system. But at the same time, we are partnering with the city, and equity is a huge part of this. So that's sort of where we're at right now. Sorry.
Yeah, just for people who aren't that familiar with bike shares, I think there's a big common misconception is that it's for people that have a bike for the day. It's not. It's to get from A to B. So if you want to take a bike and go to a Yale football game and then take that same bike back, that's not the purpose of it. It's if you're at location A to get to location B and then put the bike back in.
And then maybe you have to go to location B back to A, or maybe you gotta walk a block and find another
Because
location.
it's not feasible. The number of bikes you need wouldn't line up with the number of dock spaces you had if people are using them for 5 hours at a time. Because then when are people gonna be checking them, checking them out? At 2 a.m., you're never gonna have docking spaces, and at 2 p.m., you're never gonna have any available bikes.
And if anybody wants to dive into why we chose this company over the other two, I will stay after, or if you know me, feel free to call me. Again, we will make available, which has been available for the last 10 months, the RFP responses, the grading, the second round grading, all of the hoops that we made this company, this joint venture go through in order to win our public bidding process. It was fairly intensive. I think this company has the patience of an iceberg, if you ask me. You guys are great working with me on this. John?
I was just wondering if you guys could talk about like the way that, because clearly there's a lot of misconceptions and lack of knowledge about what a bike share is, unless maybe you had experience with it. I think a lot of parts of the city have never had experience with a bike share. So how is our city going to be educated about all of this stuff? Like, it's a one-way, it's meant for one-way trips, or this is how you pay for it, and this is what happens if your bike comes back with half the parts missing, or, like, how is the city and the users of the city going to be educated about this?
Just remember, this is the sort of basic format of your trip. John, I think this is a great time to go to my second to final slide, which is this slide. The final slide, I won't bury the lead. The final slide is contact information, not that exciting. So this is why we brought you here today. We would like your experience, your knowledge on how best to do outreach in our community here. I have my own ideas. They are not good enough. My ideas have gotten a bunch of white people and one person of color in a room to talk about bike share outreach to our community. So obviously it's not going to be good enough. And there's some other models that I'd like to copy. I'm looking at Aaron Good for Master Recyclers. Was a very interesting concept. I'm looking at David and Dawn and Astris and Kevin and Paul for our Move New Haven. I'm going to stop talking now, and please, I want you to talk amongst yourselves, like one at a time. I'll moderate, but John, the prompt is?
How is the city going to be educated?
How are we going to get our word out, and how are we going to talk to folks?
Yeah.
One of the questions on your survey, question 7, is would you like to invite us to come talk about bike share and collect community input at an upcoming meeting you're attending, leading, know about, think exists, whatever. Tell us what it is, and we'll be there. Answers.
Well, for that question, I said call Abby. That's kind of for our management team. And also, I think it could be good to, for instance, go to the Board of Education, go to every high school, because high school are likely, they all have debit cards, I presume you could use. And major employers, and maybe some of the jobs programs other cities that those are good intersections that people on the bus are likely to, let's say, take the bus downtown and then take the bike? Let's say, I don't know, what, you know.
Yes.
What is that intersection like in other cities?
Yes, and I think what we're seeing as a nation, and anybody who has ever built a system, please interrupt me. What we've seen nationwide is that there's been a very hard learning curve, I think is the best way to put it, with respect to what is bike share. Because bike share is a lot of things to a lot of people and a lot of things to a lot of different communities. One of the things it is a tourist trap. It's kind of like this, you know, yeah. So on some level, if you just have it as a tourism attraction, that's one method. If you just have it as a sort of get around campus method, that's another method. These bikes, am I allowed to say where they're at? Am I allowed to say where they're at?
They're on LinkedIn's campus. and
They're on
Lincoln's.
LinkedIn's campus, for instance. Like these are like a, you know, like a campus bike, you know. And so for us, what we saw in Philadelphia, we witnessed over the last 18 months, was the first initial launch of Philadelphia did not have the impact they thought it would have. Once they retooled it and had a refocus on transit and had a refocus on outreach and engagement, they then had the penetration and the market share that they expected, the ridership that they expected.
They can also act as a gateway, you know, once you get people, you know, comfortable with the idea that they have another mode of transportation besides their car, they might start to consider taking the bus and, you know, for the distances that are a little too far to bike.
Paul?
So just in thinking about market segments, I think it's pretty easy to envision the visitor tourism segment that's, you know, and commuter, that's, you know, Shirley Eats, the Metro North and their commuter council, and Visit New Haven, and, you know, the whole tourism infrastructure, hotels. And in terms of workforce, I guess from what I'm hearing today, I think bicycle recycling might be better for that than bike share, although maybe it could be used as a transition. The reason is, I view the green as a perfect place to have bikes because people are going to their workplaces, and their workplace may be a mile from the nearest bus stop at some industrial park, but they're going to be leaving it there for their whole shift. So unless there's a way to make bike sharing economically feasible for that sort of use, I don't think that's really a good market segment. And then. But I think, you know, the idea of having high school students use it, that's a great idea. And the shopping, to me, you know, you might be able to go round trip, but you could also take the bike on the bus and carry your bags on the bus. And so there are different ways of doing it. I think if we can do more, you know, focus groups and market research to determine how people would use it for each use and focus on the different market segments, I think we'll have a great program. And you know, as I said, I was initially interested in the workforce development aspect, but I don't think that's going to work, except for people who are working downtown or in a place where there's stations and they're taking their bike from their neighborhood and they're parking it downtown, and that would be an exception.
Mike?
All right. A lot of this really depends on whether this is a dock-dependent system. If people have to take this from a dock location to another dock location, you're never going to have enough dock locations.
Let me stop right there for a second. So the point that Michael's making is that if this is a dock-dependent system, we're never going to have enough docks to actually succeed in getting citywide. And that's exactly why we bought a smart lock system, not a dock-dependent system, so that we could actually have very flexible virtual dock. Let's define what the virtual docking is real fast, and we'll come right back to you, Mike.
Okay, you're going to look at me?
Yep.
Well, basically, bike shares in its third wave, modern bike shares in the third wave. The first wave is the smart dock. You used to know City Bike, that's very expensive, it's inflexible. Then came the smart bike, and that's what we use in Hoboken. This is a former smart bike, but it's actually even better in the sense that it's a smart lock. And so you never have, when you're on a bike, you can always park in a place. You don't have to park in a dock. So that's really frees up a lot of things. The other thing, and also to your point, One of the things with this technology, you can actually expand using peer-to-peer networks. That means that, you know, you'll have opportunities on the exact same software platform to go to the factory or whatever and park it there. It's just, all your points regarding market tests and stuff like that, I agree, but this technology enables all that. This technology is by far and away this, most likely.
Michael.
Now, continuing on, since we are in a non-docked system, I mean, you should be able to have a standard bike lock. It's not any special dock, but a standard bike lock that's at Stop and Shop already, at Walmart already downtown, already, you know, basically just a fence, you know, area close to be able to go on your app here, say, hey, where's the closest bike? Okay, now I can pick one up here. And then, now if we make it to where users can say, hey, I'm going to go to this location, or I need to be able to pick up a bike near this location in 20 minutes. This helps all of the rebalancing issues that we could say, hey, the bike will be near you, because if it's not already, we have people out in the field to get it there in time.
Right.
We can work on offering discounted to make it easier. Say, hey, now if you can park it just this much further, you can get a few points back.
Is that what we're thinking? So we've heard those, and Chris is furiously writing notes in the corner. Because part of this is we haven't gone to contract yet. The contract is being negotiated presently. And so the question of 45 minutes, 30 minutes, 60 minutes, you know, it's going to be very important.
It's way down the road, right? After the contract, is that?
We would put it in the contract probably, or have some sort of minimum standards type thing. And so if our community really wanted to make a minimum of 30, or make a minimum of 45, or, you know, we would be able to negotiate that. Now, as Pedro mentioned, we are dealing with for-profit companies. They're not a social service. They are in it to make some money. They do have social missions, of course, to bring bike share around the world. One of the things that we've identified as a city early on in the process is that in the Hoboken system that this company runs, there's advertising revenue that supports it. And that's going to be a very public conversation. We're not going to try and hide this. We want to have a very public conversation about what it would take to make a sustainable bike share system. And one of the answers is partial subsidy by ad revenue. And where we saw this best is in Seattle. The Seattle Pronto system launched, went down in the tubes, famously went down in the tubes from a financial standpoint, and then 2 years later, the city council bailed it out with $3 or $2 million of a cash infusion. And I want to be very clear: there is no hope of a penny from the city government going into this system. Maybe some bike racks, some other low dollar things, but we're not going to be this is going to be over and above the services provided by the city government presently. So a lot of what we're talking about, what ideas do you have? We want to make sure that this system is implementable. We'll be there in 3 years. And most importantly, goes where I want to go, because this is last point, and we got to keep it.
Last point.
You're on the list.
We were able to use the public transit system to help the rebalancing, because these were traffic that were already going.
Yeah, well,
and just saying, hey, operator, can you get out, put the bike up on the rack if you've got an empty space, and use what's already happening.
We're looking at another market where you have bikes wanting to go downtown, and you have it's transit on demand, like Chariot or Bridge or something, and they go downtown. When those vans go back out, you put them on the front of the rack, and you're balancing. There's all these things that can happen. It's really cool.
I'm sorry, beige sweater.
Oh,
you had your hand up earlier, and you're on the list. Abby's on the list. Answers is back on the list.
Okay, so I'm a student at SDSU, and I was just thinking, because I know you mentioned talking to the Board of Education about educating the high schools about this, but like, what are your plans for universities? Because I know for Southern, besides our shuttle
Summer,
very-
she's a regular writer.
It's like somewhat, or not somewhat, it's pretty dangerous to walk from SCSU even down to Broadway.
Right.
So a biking route would be beneficial. What are your plans for that?
So we're gonna put a pin in the infrastructure talk, because we're doing stuff. We'll talk about that later.
Sure.
But that's a great point. So SCSU, we're gonna need a volunteer who lives on Farnham Avenue to help us coordinate the outreach and engagement.
And
of
for
that.
Fred.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Probably need at least 2 people.
Yeah, I mean, both intern at the Office of Sustainability, so.
So your office needs to stay after, and Chris is gonna figure out how to coordinate with you guys. That's wonderful. Kobe.
Yeah, well, so this actually is gonna play into that. So a lot of the issues we've talked about, issues of equity, don't already have bike infrastructure. So it's all well and good to say like, hey, we're gonna put a bike share system right on Whaley Avenue. That way people can bike to Stop and Shop. But then you're saying, all right, people who don't have their own bikes and don't necessarily have that confidence or know how to ride a bike on Whaley Avenue, go for it. I mean,
That was one of my things, was, are we gonna do lessons?
well, I mean, so, in Fairhaven, like, I don't know if there is a bike lane in Fairhaven. Is many?
Yeah, there's many.
Okay, maybe on Grand Avenue.
There's none on Grand Avenue.
Not on Grand Avenue, that's not correct.
That's right, go off Grand Avenue.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is these are main corridors where you have lots of people that would be able to use the bike share system, but are you entrusting them to launch without the infrastructure in place?
So one of our meetings is gonna have to be dedicated to conversation about LCIs, education, and setting up regularly scheduled training opportunities through the Education Committee, hopefully the Education and Outreach Committee at Elm City Cycling, or through the Parks Department, who has three LCIs in your shop, 2 LCIs in my shop. So the city has been gearing up for this over the last 4 years. Over the last 3 years, we've trained 3 extra LCIs. Martine always had it, right? But we've trained other licensed certified instructors in the city to be able to help subsidize and augment. If you're an LCI in this room, raise your hand. Right. So there's a lot of private sector LCIs and a lot of community-driven LCIs.
Which stands for League of American Bicyclists Certified Instructor.
League certified instructor to teach people how to ride bikes. So that's probably gonna be one of the later meetings, Krisha, how to figure that out. You good?
But with Whaley Avenue, it's not safe to bike on Whaley Avenue.
Well, again, I agree. I would also say that, is Whaley Avenue the best street to bike on? I'm building a protected cycle track a half
That'll
block away.
be where you need to go. Yeah, I agree.
So, the nice part about the system will be that this will inform our planning. So the conversation that happens whenever you bring that up in any room that doesn't have a cyclist, what is the reaction to Whaley Avenue? But when we show you 1,000 people rode there last month, that might change your mind. So this system will help inform and keep us moving the ball forward on progressive street design. In the meantime, we're gonna have to focus on golf. We're gonna have to focus on the smaller corridors. The city does, somebody was asking me not to, the city does own Whaley Avenue up to El Grasa Boulevard. So if you are Jonathan Hopkins, or not Jonathan Hopkins, I should say, and if you have your own idea for Whaley Avenue, please don't hesitate to let us know. Or just tell Jonathan and he can amend his excellently done, good idea. Kevin.
We do face a claim in that if we want the stations to be close enough so people can go from point A to point B.
How close is that for you? Like, what's too far to walk for you? You're a big walker.
Yeah, I'm probably somewhere north of a half mile, but I think for lots of folks, that's probably about as far as you want them apart.
Gotcha.
And
So that'd
if
be
you
one
have,
every quarter mile.
if you have 30 stations, and whatever the number is, the reality is you're going to have it in a relatively small part of town. There's no way you're going to have stations on the East Shore or West Rock.
Unless they're in the parks.
Yeah.
In city-owned assets.
But even if they're in the parks, they'll be far enough away where it's really not practical.
Except for to use the park, right.
Yeah. And that's going to be a problem in part when you talk Board of Alders, because if I'm from the East Shore, large chunks of the hill, what's in it for me?
Sure. Well, no cost is in it for you, of course, and less traffic is the answer. But no, this is a really good point. So part of our conversation as a city, as a bike share system, is how do we make the system affordable and expandable so that we can get to 750 bikes as soon as humanly possible. As soon as are you got my? You good?
Okay.
Abby's next. Joel, you're on the list.
No, my point actually had been the education point, just I think more, there might be people who would be scared to do it because they aren't experienced riding, so that's great.
How did you learn? So I know that you're a recent convert.
I learned by having friends.
That means everybody has to, there's 100 friends, grab 100 friends in the next 6 months.
Adopt an
Go on a bike ride. Joel, you're on the list.
Well, I want to point out that, probably 80 to 90% of the cyclists out there are licensed drivers, so they do know how to get around on the streets.
That was my problem.
Yeah, it's not one of those.
The other thing is about, trying to service the outer reaches of the city. That's where the buses can be, utilized to bring people into the inner city, where parking is such a problem, and particularly for people who work here. I think that's might be the biggest users, rather than driving their car across town, taking it out of their parking place and worrying about being able to put it back. These are the people who need to be able to use these, and we're certainly going to want to have plenty available. And that is, the attraction, that would be an attraction for more people to come downtown, because hey, I just park my car and get around my bike, and I go here and I go there. And
Our dream is to find all of the remote parking facilities, say the Dixwell Library, say the Farmington Canal line up in Hamden that has parking lots, or how about the Amity up on Dixwell? And figure out how do we convince people that it's in their best interest to drive there, park there, and bike in. So bike and ride.
Even the
park and ride.
park and fair parking that are closer to downtown.
You can actually just walk from there. They'll put you up. Yeah.
Depends on where you go.
Right, that's true. What's your square?
Yeah, so I have 3 points actually. One of them is we recently did a survey of graduate students at Yale, and bike costs and theft are actually concerns that keep people from buying and using bikes. So I think that will be, I think there's an important market there for grad students, which is at least a good revenue generation income, because income of the Yale grad student is it's okay. I mean, to use a bike. I mean, anyway. That's my point. The second point is that perhaps if the smartphone is a constraint, then perhaps having screens in some high circulation points, like major bus stops in the green, where you can see the bikes, if it's going to be a taxi system, where you can see where the bikes are, and you can interact with that, might be helpful.
Coordination with smart bus shelters and sort of mini transit hubs.
And finally, I want to go back.
If you need to update your library card, please go to the checkout desk now. Library cards will not be issued or updated after 7:30.
Finally, I want just to go back to the Elm Street point and connected to the point about usage during winter. As a biker, my main concern in the winter is the snows on the sides, just on the street side, and especially if you don't know how much the green is going to last. I'm pretty sure that the snow on it during 3 months will erode it very quickly, and that will generate a lot of conflicts also. So part of being able to use the bikes during the winter, I think, relies on the bike lanes being available.
Relies on maintenance. Director, please stand up, introduce yourself, and talk about what you've done.
Not there quite yet.
Our Director of Parks has some great innovative stuff that she's working on, but that's a very good point. Minneapolis is the second best biking city in the country. And I've been told that they get snow from time to time. So it is humanly possible. It might just not be New Havenly possible. Anything else?
No.
Thank you, those are great. Anstris.
Yeah, it's actually related to your point about bus stations and hubs. I'm wondering, I know that you're looking in general that we have our main hub downtown, we may move towards subhubs. There could be a way that having some bike share at the sub-hub, some people may not need to transfer because the bike could get them there faster than waiting for the transfer. So it'd be interesting as the actual bus study looks at the data you're collecting right now people's typical trips and transfers, whether some portion of those people might be able to get faster or something. So it makes your sub-hub work on with two modes.
And I think our bike share will be launched long before we change our bus system.
Yeah.
And I think a metric for success will be how many people bypass their first leg of the bus. And that we actually have a problem rebalancing from the green rather than balancing from Union Station.
Let's say, I forgot the cross street, up on Dixwell Avenue, there's a bus shelter that sits across a wide side.
Bassett.
Bassett. So that's a road that goes over Westville.
Yep.
We've always guessed. So let's say there was a bike share on that big broad side.
Tom, do you remember the two intersections I told you to study?
Yeah. And then-
Dixwell Bassett and Brandon Ferry.
And then, well, I was actually thinking the other way, to Westville Center.
Mhm.
Would people get off and ride the bike across there? Because that could be one of the cross-town routes you're looking at too.
Mhm.
So this could help you get data to look at for people like those.
And those sort of data sets, that's the Bassett intersection, Dixwell and Bassett, the overly large sidewalk would be an exceptional thing to put into C-Click Fix that says, Dixwell and Bassett is the point, why, overly large sidewalk, you can get off the right of way, you can hit a whole full-on station, it's on the D line, and there's a cross-town route. Really close to FCL, FCHD, sorry. I'm sorry, I got my list. Josh?
Quick question. This is only the city proper, right? So there won't be a station on like a West Haven Beach or something like that.
So far, we have not entirely figured out the interlocal stuff. Tom has not slept since he was awarded the contract. And our goal is to be up and down Shoreline East, up and down the Hartford line, up and down Metro North. So our goal is to have one system to rule the state. And we are, I'm on a panel like next month. It's a giant transportation panel, but it's in Hartford, it's about the Hartford region, and they're bringing me up just to talk about bike share for New Haven region. And we've been working with the CROG, the Capital Regional Council of Governments, who's a very forward-thinking council of governments, on how best to have them purchase off my contract, our contract. But could use a little more thinking on this and sort of browbeating to the surrounding neighborhoods. But number one, we're going to definitely need to have an open payment system, whereby no matter what the system is, even the Zagster system here, we need systems to talk to each other, right? That's a really good point.
And then the second thing is how do we reach out to the neighborhoods that are not represented here right now? Like, it's all well and good to use C-Click Fix and, SurveyMonkey. People like me will definitely respond and you'll know we're.
A lot of our neighborhoods, let me be clear, a lot of our neighborhoods are actually represented. It's the people of color that are not. Some other folks from our neighborhoods are not. So Fairhaven, I'm looking around the room and I know enough people to know a lot of our neighborhoods are represented. But the question is, a lot of our people from New Haven are not. But David, you want to talk to that right now? You're actually next on the list.
Okay, there's quite a few things I can comment on. Reaching out to other people in Fairhaven, I would go to 40 Pentecostal churches. They're all little churches. They all have members of 50 to 100 people. I would go see Father Manship at St. Rose Church, which has 1,300 immigrants going to it. I would go to the politicians that are walking door to door to door during election time, that are bringing out thousands of registered voters, which are the people that you want to reach to. One comment. Two, I used to be the dispatcher at the cab company for years. We had certain routes that were not the bus routes. We called it the Orchard Street Shuffle. That was from Dixwell to Sylvan Avenue or to the Hill. We called it the Westville Shuffle, which was from the Dog Pound out of Westville into New Hallville. We had the Shuffle that was from Fairhaven, which was Hispanic, into the Hill. There was the Long Wharf Shuffle. So I'd get on the radio and go, who wants to work the Long Wharf Shuffle? Who wants to work the Dixie Shuffle? Right? These are where the routes are. So go talk to the cab companies and the cab drivers and find out where the major push is. We back then we had 100 cabs that we were moving per hour. Going back to the bicycles, it seems to me that your docking stations are really inventory stations. And you need to load balance your inventory stations. Okay. With that said, your inventory is going to change by the day. Because if you have an inventory station that's over by the Farmington Canal or North Shore, where there's a lot of parks, that inventory is going to be used during the weekends, but not during the weekdays. Then that inventory needs to be taken out of those locations and put back into an inventory where you need it for the shuffling of people around that are going to work. Then you have your inventory that's going to change at night that has to do with shopping. And as you're changing the inventory, it's going to be difficult unless you have GPS on that bike. You have a Metro card, which identifies each individual person who owns that Metro card. They swipe it into the GPS system of the bike. Now you know where the person is and your load balancing that you need. Historical information will take place over a 6-month period. Now you need electrical battery on the bicycle for your GPS and your swiping to talk to your phone system so that all you white people can go around and find the phone wherever you want it. And you need an inventory person who has a van that's going from these different points and moving the bicycles to the load balancing for the time of day or the week period that you need it.
We have all of that.
And I think a bicycle
Except for
should
the
be
local
able to
staff.
be left anywhere. So if I want to leave a bicycle over on the corner of Lombard and Ferry because I went grocery shopping, and somebody takes a GPS, they can go find that bicycle and pick it up. But when they come and swipe the card, you would say to the master service industry, that bike's not available yet because the other person who swiped it, that used it, that left it there, and because the GPS is tracking it, and you could see it sitting in front of their house, is not usable yet because that person still wants to use it. It needs to be released so that you can just take it from the house.
All of that is exactly why we bought this bike, and this company won the bid rather than the other companies that were proposing.
The one thing that we don't do is the MTA card, but there will be a specific card for a person
Oh,
that
and I have
could be
one other
used.
question.
Sure.
When you charge for the 30 minutes and the person only uses it for 1 minute, as you do with an ATM machine that charges you $3, or the Metro card at the New York subway that charges you $1 every time you refill your card, will you be getting a merchant service fee for transferring that money or that revenue that you're taking?
There might be an initial charge for the card, but refilling the card should not.
Well, every time I use a credit card, merchant services wants money for transferring.
Not if you do a wallet. So we have that same thing with Go New Haven versus Park Mobile.
Right.
Park Mobile does transactions at every single transaction. At Go New Haven, we batch them and do it at the end of your.
So if I use a debit card, it would go through.
Well, and a number of things. So one, you're gonna have a membership, I think, David. You personally probably have a membership. So your first 30 minutes are included in your membership. And then your account will have a wallet, which will be debited from.
So you're subtracting from your balance that you refill.
Yeah, kinda
And
like
every time you refill it, there's a fee for the merchant services?
Well, again, the persons who guarantee that those payments are transferred from your account to their account will charge a fee.
Yeah, what I'm saying by merchant service, I'm saying
To the
Bank
user?
of America.
Yeah, that's all cost.
No, all that has to go through.
Let me tell you, handling cash is much more expensive than a merchant
And
service.
what about if somebody comes off
Let
the
me tell
train
you.
that doesn't live here and they're not a member and they just want to use the bicycle?
Yep, and that's where they swipe a credit card at a station or at a kiosk, and that kiosk might just be an iPad at a neighborhood location. That's great. Joel. Dawn, you're up next. You're good? Dawn? You jumped the queue, that's right.
Couple
I'll
of
let you
things
get away
that-
with it because you're so awesome.
I just happened to think about. I have a friend who's a cab driver in New York, and cab drivers hate this. And so there's.
They also hate
that.
pedestrians too.
Huh?
They also hate pedestrians.
They hate everybody.
And they hate
But,
Uber.
so there's that, the blowback that you get from all this changing thing. I think that's gonna be how we as in you and that's approached in terms of marketing, but I wanted to know what kind of a commitment is you, the city, or whatever, how long, this is gonna be a marketing adventure. And it's gonna be hilarious, and it's gonna be an awful lot of fun.
I'm gonna fail miserably.
No, it's gonna be a lot of fun, Doug, because marketing something that is brand new is exciting as hell. You know, when we were opening up our store, it was brand new. It had never been done in New Haven before, so the sky was the limit. And that's a heck of a lot easier than trying to change something that's already there. So, but it's also not gonna be a marketing thing that you can do overnight.
Right.
Right? So how long of a commitment are you guys willing to, you know, to do with this?
So first and foremost, this is not gonna be something we're gonna market overnight. We have not even submitted the contract to the Board of Alders. And that will take a 2-3 month process to sign the contract. And once that contract is signed, it'll be a 7-8 month process to deliver the bikes and to open the system publicly. So we're about 11 months away right now, as we said, maybe 10 for fast. We're probably not gonna be fast, cause does anyone know me to do anything fast as bureaucratic? No.
So my taking a bike to the green for the summer concerts is off the, that's off the.
You guys heard it here, summer concerts.
It's off the list, eh?
Right, no, exactly. So the more important question is what sort of commitment from the company, correct? And what I'm making a case, and I'm gonna, you know, I would love for everyone in this room to be in the same room when there's a hearing at the Board of Alders. We're gonna be asking the Board of Alders for a 10-year contract, so that this firm can go out and get investors who can then capitalize their investments. These bikes are roughly $960 and then some. Each mechanical component is another couple hundred. The add panels or something. This is that. You know, folks want to see a 10-year investment cycle, which I think is very reasonable. And if you can wait 10 years to get your money back, as opposed to just making you rush in 5, you can build a bigger system and shoot the moon, if you will. So I'm going to be making the case, and I hope you join me if you think it's a good idea, that one, public advertisements managed to help subsidize this system is very, very crucial to the success of the system. And 2, a 10-year contract is good. Understandably that my director in the back is shaking her head, probably she didn't, but she just got denied a 15-year contract, and they broke it into a 5 with 2 5-year extensions, right? So the Board of Alders typically likes 5-year contracts as the maximum. We're gonna ask them for 10. We're gonna ask them for 10 with a 5-year renewal because it's a brand new system, a huge capital investment, and investors are gonna want a commitment from us, just like we want a commitment from them. Is that all fair?
One other thing too, New Haven, I think, is unique compared to some other cities in that you can't throw a rock without hitting a nonprofit in the city. So, you combine the nonprofits, the churches, community buildings such as the library, the teen operation here in the library is phenomenal. I think the Board of Ed is, well, whatever. Because I don't see, the Board of Ed can't seem to agree on anything, so to get.
The Board of Ed was involved in the RFP review process for a reason as well, which is between the parks, the city engineer back there who was on the RFP review process as well, myself, and a bunch of other people. There's a lot of city property that we can, at minimum, come to the table as a station location.
Exactly, and so you've got all these organizations and the opportunities, and I think what's really important about marketing is that people's memories and their attention span last this long. So it's kind of like to the point where people get sick of hearing about it.
Early morning
You
tweets
know?
work pretty well.
Yeah.
Did I do that? Is that what you're saying? I feel like this is an accusation on me. John, I'm going to try and close the list. Paul, you're on the list. If anybody else wants to say something, please raise your hand. We're running up against time. And Matthew's on the list too. Michael's added to the list. John.
I just want to ask a more specific version of my question, which is like, how, if I'm a kid from Fairhaven, has no idea how to use a bike sharing system, never heard of it, I see this thing now, like at the end of my street, I'm like, oh, that's cool. I swipe my card, somehow get it. How do I know not to do all the things you can't do with it? Like, put it in your backyard for 4 days, or strip the handlebars off and strip the brakes off, or what, like, how is the face-to-face education? Are there gonna be kiosks that have that? Is it like gonna be part of signing up for a membership? Just like, I just wanna talk through that just briefly.
Yes, there will be occasional kiosks. There's been some proposal in the responses to the RFP of a mobility. Do you want to describe it?
Yeah, I mean.
Not guaranteed.
Not fair.
You haven't gone to contract.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe it's not.
With and this goes to some of the other questions is that, and then they're looking at this actually in Los Angeles, where you create multimodal hubs. That could be places like, there's a place in Fairhaven, the community garden, English Mall. You know, they have that structure there. You know, you could actually, somewhere like that, put a structure that could then serve not only as that structure for the community garden, but also as a structure where you can pick up a bike share, where you can actually pay for it if you're unbanked, where you can actually rent a bike if you want to do it for more than a couple hours, pick up a lift line, be a hub for a company called Via, which is one of these big data-driven, it's like Bridge and things like that. So you can have these multimodal hubs. Basically, the world is changing at hyperspeed. This guy I know, one of the automotive OEMs, he's noted that the transportation service industry is worth $5.4 trillion. So you have so much money going into this space. So you can have these multimodal hubs that are really designed to evolve with the technology and with the marketplace.
So you try to teach, pretty much you wouldn't be able to sign up for a membership. You wouldn't be able to create a membership maybe until you maybe
We have to be 16.
read through stuff. You have to be 16, yeah.
You have to be, yeah.
But there's gonna be a lot of people that.
Well, that is with the
Yeah.
conventional bike share. You can, one of these ideas of these hubs and these bodegas is that you can actually rent a bike when you're less than 16.
Yeah.
Can I just ask for a little bit of courtesy, maybe graciousness? Kids in the Hill and in Fairhaven are no less or no more responsible than kids anywhere else in the city,
Agreed.
okay? And I would trust a kid in Fairhaven with a bike faster than I would a student at Yale. So let's just use a little, I get offended by that sort of thing, such
Or
as
what's
the
that
comment
thing?
of white people and telephones, okay?
Yeah.
I have a problem with that as well. So if I can ask that we show a little bit more, it is 2016, and let's show a little bit more courtesy to those of us who are not economically as stable as a Yale student.
We
All right?
agree fully with that, and actually, in addition to Fairhaven, the Hill is the other place we're going.
Yeah.
And this is going on during the 10-month period where we have left. We're gonna be studying the heck out of both Fairhaven and the Hill.
But let's not use Fairhaven kids as an example of being
John's worked with the
less
Fairhaven.
responsible.
Yeah, I run a
Especially-
bicycle program with Fairhaven kids.
So he's talking specifically about.
I'm using
his
them because
students.
I'm imagining people that I work with never
Not
having
that that's
seen.
representative of all kids.
Of course, and they're very responsible kids. But for me, it's like, how do they learn about a bike share program?
Yep. And
Where
so-
like I lived in Boston, so I know what a bike share program is, but they have never seen one. So how do you, as a new member, learn about that?
Yep, and I think part of it is
Summer
gonna be,
camp program.
ad panel, part of it is gonna be the outreach and engagement.
Yeah.
And part of it will be standard user level agreements that obviously we all read our ULAs whenever we download a new app. So obviously our legalese will be very much covering all of our bases. No, but that's a really good point. I mean, we've given our standard detail of digital message boards, the digital wayfinding signs that we spec out. You know, part of this will be a couple of higher end stations that have the full service potential. There's a potential for having a full service station where you can put a credit card in the thing. That's not guaranteed yet. We're still working out our contract and what to expect. But
I mean, I
this
asked because
feedback is really helpful.
I asked because just like that is a major equity point, is like education and understanding. Because if you've never seen this thing before and you don't know what it is, it's a barrier to entry if you don't know how to use it or how to pay for it or whatever. So that education is pretty important.
Thank you.
I was going to say, well, just to comment on that, what was just mentioned a minute ago about Zaxxon bikes at Yale. I'd say overall the Zaxxon bikes at Yale by Yale students are treated like shit, and they have actually found Yale students riding around stealing them, supporting them at the house. So it doesn't really matter where you come from, how they're treated.
See?
It just depends on the individual. Well, I make a lot of money because college students are responsible. But I was wondering, like, with this smart lock system, what prevents some of somebody from actually picking up the bike and
Bringing it to the scrapyard.
taking it to the scrapyard, or, you know, just stripping it down, which happens all the time. I mean, bikes get stolen all the time from Zaxby's. I mean,
Yeah.
since March, I'd say maybe a dozen or more bikes have been
Sure,
stolen.
so there, this company has about 1,500 in America right now, is that correct? About 1,500 bikes in the field, more than that. 3 have been stolen so far. They traced 2 of them down, and the one was in Burning Man, and they let it. They just said, forget it, that one's gone. We lost that bike, but otherwise.
Although the LinkedIn campus may have a different experience than the city of New Haven.
Yes, most definitely. At the same time, you know, they can pinpoint down to 3 feet where these bikes are, until they go to the scrapyard, and I don't know.
And the scrapyard will turn it into the police. No, I'm telling you, when things are stolen, we
They have
send
an
the police
agreement,
to the
yeah.
scrapyard, they find those parts, and the scrapyard tells them who brought it in, who they paid the money to, and we know who the person is.
Good. Well, you can keep your hand down, you're on the list. Kirsten,
I think I'm good. You didn't think so.
Matthew.
What is the, you talk about the smart lock, is it go around the wheel and does it have a cable included to it to tether it to something? It's just
That's-
relying on locking
Just
down?
the same as the bike.
Right.
Yeah, the lock will have a cable, and the lock is right where the gentleman pointed.
So you really are entrusting the fact that someone isn't gonna pick it up?
You could do that, there will be some issues with that, it's, what is it, 37 pounds? City bike, I think is 45, yeah. But there is also gonna be the chain lock, and the intention is that, it's kinda like if you look at the toilet system, if it's a geozone, anyway, you have a geozone, and you can actually park your bike anywhere inside that geozone. You charge an extra $2 if you park there, and you earn an extra.
I'm not worried about that, I'm worried about that.
Well, yeah, yeah.
I'm worried about somebody locking that bike up, leaving it somewhere, and then walking away, and then having someone else come along, pick up the bike, throw it in a vehicle, and drive it out.
There
of
will
the
be a
city.
risk, but there is the GPS system.
So as soon as a bike is not rented properly and it is moved, the system lifts an alarm, and there's an operator looking at those alarms and then going after the bikes.
If you go to the New Haven Police Report, you'll find that we have high break-in and stealing all throughout the city.
Yeah.
Huge amounts. And most of it's minor theft of people scrapping and things like that.
Paul.
So a couple things. You mentioned an 8 or 10 month time in which this is going to be considered. I'm hoping that the first year of this bike share program will be launched in the spring. So we are a 4-season licensed city, but if we are reaching out to people who don't use bikes a lot, I think we need to, even if it means waiting a year, I mean, I'd like to see it expedited and have the Board of Aldermen, rush, but since that may not happen, and other permits and other things may not happen quickly, I would rather see this bike share launched in the spring of 2018 than in late fall of 2017. So that's point number 1.
Let's pause right there. Can we, so let's just make an assumption right now that we launch in October of 2017. Would you rather launch in October of 2017 and get it out the door, or wait until spring of 2018? So October 2017, raise your hand. Wow, that's, okay, well, the vendor.
Well, first of all, I'm not the vendor. But I
You're
also
not?
I'm the vendor to you, sorry, I think of them as the vendor, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Get your pronouns in order, sir.
Do what?
Get your pronouns in order. Alright.
Well, like in the case of Hoboken, Hoboken took us a lot longer than we expected. Partially because when we first were rolling out Hoboken, we were caught in the wave of City Bike almost going bankrupt. So we had to shift gears a little bit, but we actually launched Hoboken, I think 150 bikes or something like that.
One square mile.
Yeah, 1 square mile. In October, and that was useful because then you could get the kinks worked out, and there were a number of kinks, because it's the first time this German technology was used in the United States. And then, so even a smaller launch, I would argue that a smaller launch in October is better. Yeah.
So what you're really saying is, do you want, that's the real question is, do you want a launch that wasn't thought out well to come early, or a launch that came out later because a lot of the variables were worked out before you did the launch? Like getting a computer version.
That's the problem.
Go on.
The second part of the question is, and I think we should get back to this, but I like the idea of a compromise where you have a pilot, and then you roll it out in the spring, not in the fall. But in terms of marketing, with Hoboken being the closest municipality where this system is extended, right? Is that correct?
This particular system's out in California. They got a number of major clients, I won't say once, but the others are.
But what's in Hoboken? Maybe
It's a company called Next Bike, which is Smart Bike.
In any case, I think we need a field trip from New Haven that involves potential advertisers, that, and, you know, we heard about churches and different constituents. We also have neighborhood organizations, neighborhood management teams, merchant associations, and just, you know, get them to go down there in a bus or a train or whatever, wherever it's comparable, the closest comparable bike share system, and to generate more interest and enthusiasm and educate people and to get questions. So that's my second part. So.
That's great. And we're going to get to advertising soon, but if you know folks whom would want to pay for advertising, there's not been an advertising book made. You know, we haven't done outreach and engagement yet. I know about once a week I get a phone call from one particular landlord who is begging me, knocking on my door to launch bike share on their property. There's a lot of landlords that I can think of, but you know, it's going to be folks like Claire's Cornucopia that wants to sponsor a bike, and others. So I'm going to close the list right now because we're running out of time, and we have 4 more people to go through. So, Michael.
All right. So it's a bit of a question and a bit of an answer. One of the issues we ran into in Topeka was that there was a art district that was using the bikes a lot right next to a homeless shelter that was abusing the bikes. So people had it checked out in their name and it was being damaged while it was under their name. We could prove it wasn't them, but we didn't have a way to hold people responsible to the damage being caused. So the question is, what are we going to do to combat that? But as part of the answer, we were pointing out earlier that if somebody wanted to take this wheel off and just take off with it, our hub brake system needs a special fork to be able to use. So if somebody were to take off this, they'd have to take off with the cable, the hub brake, and it really wouldn't be usable on their bike. Nonetheless, we saw people, for no other purpose than to be destructive, and what are we gonna do?
Yeah. Some of this is behavior and some of it will be, you know, working with the police to make sure that their safety cameras maybe are positioned appropriately near the major stations or something like that, or if we get a lot of issues, we can respond and then flex and grow and change our strategy. That's going to be something to keep an eye on.
So who's actually responsible for where the stations go and when?
Everyone around the room.
Who's the actual guy?
Me.
Okay.
But like, you know, you.
Is it like the Trump-Clinton election?
Yeah.
You can make your own vote afterwards?
So I'm just worried that just with some of the talk about these far-flung, you know, what about someone that works here and works there, is that I really think the emphasis from the get-go needs to be putting stations where people use them the most. So I understand people's concern about outlying areas and having bike share stations in places where people don't have bikes, but really you need to have destinations of origin and destinations where you're going to that are going to be heavy traffic. And so it's going to be your Union Station, your downtown, your State Street, Yale, and I think that should really be the emphasis for putting the original station.
Well, we can start by starting with some data sets we have. We do have a number of data sets that are helping inform on a bigger, sort of a higher level. But again, we're hopeful that this group around the room, and as we go forward in the next 8 to 9 months, we continue to grow and evolve the system. I anticipate, in order to sign the contract, I have to come up with, the city and the vendor have to come up with some mutually decided upon 30 stations. That's the bare minimum to sign the contract, like to get the contract off the ground. But, you know, I don't wanna stop until we're at 75 at minimum, because, you know, this should be a real option, bless you. And how we're gonna do that is by combining a lot of revenue streams that help make this possible. And one of those revenue streams that we're building into our contract is a 10% profit share. So after, some form of profit share. So after the company, you know, makes profit, the city will get to invest a certain percentage of that profit into stations that may not make as much money. So understandable that advertisers want to be where there's advertising dollars to be made, and vice versa. Dave, the list is closed. We're going to have to invest more than that, and the way to get around the city investment is to make them invest their money where I tell them to, or where we as a group tell them to, and so that we can actually make it more profitable.
Oh, I just wanted to briefly comment on the piloting idea, and if we were to pilot in October 2017, I would really look into which community you're piloting, because if it's a community that isn't so into the idea, then it might not get as much, I don't know, publicity and.
One thing that could be really helpful, this is a sidebar, but if Southern Connecticut State University's Office of Sustainability, I've heard they exist, I heard they're great people. If they wanted to become and buy into the system, if the universities would all buy into the system as well, that would be a huge benefit. To expand the system in a way where maybe Southern, instead of having so many shuttles, they might be able to drop a shuttle and invest in bike sharing and shift the allocated costs that way.
What do you mean by buying in, sorry?
Well, these cost money, and the membership alone does not support the entire cost of the system. Just like all forms of transit, effectively, they're subsidized. And so one way to subsidize it is by sponsoring the front basket. You know, and it depends on how if we ever come up with a title sponsor, like City Bike is a title sponsor, it would no longer be called the New Haven Bike Share System. You know, and so there are ways to help to do that, but we could definitely use some help on outreach on that. That's great. And Lee, Mr. Cruz.
So I'm commenting about the piloting and the sort of rolling out. It seems to me like I want to sort of add my voice to this gentleman that if we had a rollout at certain places that we know are places, you know, to get started in the wintertime, and people see the bikes for a while, because it takes a while for people who aren't used to using the, you know, bikes in general, and particularly bikes like these, if they see people riding them, and so where are you going to get that, and can you get that over the wintertime? So that's one point. I don't know, is it possible to use the city's video system? Of course, my wife would call while I'm talking. Is it possible to use the city's video system at the intersections to collect aggregated data about number of bikes rolling down the street? Or
It is physically possible. It is technologically possible. It costs a certain dollar figure per hour that I will never have.
Data Haven doesn't do that.
Is it possible to give, would it be possible to give volunteers, if we get volunteers, access to that space and do, you know, instead of standing out in the street, hot or cold, to go into a room and literally for a period of time count the bicycles?
We could
going
try
down,
that.
let's say for example, Grand Avenue, because I happen to live in Fairhaven. Just to see if it makes sense to do something out like at Seatown, because that's where I would imagine.
You know, if there was a bike plan subcommittee of some nonprofit advocacy organization that wanted to step up.
And what might the acronym of that organization?
You know, it remind me of the housing authority. I don't know why, but Home City Communities, is that?
Oh, and there's that
That's right.
foundation.
So, like, that would be a wonderful, honestly, that could be very helpful on main roads, and that could be something that we do regardless. Currently, once a year, we do a point-in-time study that covers the medical campus all the way up to Grove Street, so most of downtown plus.
Yeah. A point was being made by my distinguished colleague here about wanting to know who wants bikes versus who's using them. But the fact of the matter is, in marketing, the more people see people on bikes, the more people want bikes. There's the chicken and egg problem. And we can't count what's in people's head, but we can count bikes, so that's something. And then I want to personally and publicly commit to supporting the idea of getting businesses on board. So what I need and what all of us need is, what's your message, your messaging via social media, and with the link to where they can go to act. And I personally promise you, every one of those messages that I see will be sent out to my followers. And if all of us here could commit to doing that, that repeated message, and also visiting the businesses that we use, the dry cleaners and the restaurants, and telling them it goes a long ways to have a business person here, me, who comes here all the time and uses I want you to do this. That would be a big help. Thank you.
One of the things that you mentioned about counting bikes, that's one of the advantages of this technology. Yeah, you can create heat maps. So you can tell exactly where it is any time of the day.
At least thinking from the planning perspective, where people are today, not where people will be in the future. But that's a great point. So we've come to the time of the evening where we wrap up, and then we keep talking amongst ourselves for a while before getting kicked out by the library at hard fast 7:50. So Lee had some great questions, which is how does anyone help in between now and our next meeting? When is our next meeting, Krisha?
Potentially January 20.
So we have about a month before our next meeting. I cut her off because she couldn't remember the exact date. But it will be. We'll look it up. We'll look it up and find it very, very soon.
25th.
January 25th. Same day as the 1978 blizzard. But here's some ways to stay involved right now. I think
also if you put your email in the survey, either a SurveyMonkey or the Facebook survey, then you will be added to our updates list and you'll be updated on everything we're doing.
So between now and the end of January, we'd like you to grab to tell us where we should be in the next 3 months. So if you can think of meetings that are going to happen in the next 3 months, make sure you put that in your survey responses. For anybody that came late, we have some paper copies of the survey, but we also have a digital survey to share. And are these live? These are live, I think?
Yeah, they're the ones that
Thank you.
want to show.
So right now we're having placeholders. So we're going to have the conversations at these places on social media. Of course, we're hoping for a giant title sponsor that makes this thing super affordable, and so we don't have to worry about finances ever again. Actress has an idea on that, and I agree with your idea. I know it. I think I know it, and I agree with it. And it happens in Greenville, South Carolina. It happens in Arkansas. It happens everywhere else. You can email Krisha. She's over there. Email me, but it's better to email Krisha. And then for business conversations, if you know anybody that's chomping at the bit, saying, "Oh my gosh, how much does it cost to have bike share?" Hopefully by the end of January we might have information for advertisers, but more than likely it's going to be March before we can start doing outreach to businesses, so that we know that the contract is in, that we're moving forward. Right now we're starting our community engagement process. The vendor is going to do.
Sorry, but that's important if something like that happens, because there's a few ways we can slice the sponsorship part. So if we know that there's a lot of small businesses that are interested in being a sponsor or a partner of a small part of the program, then we know we can push that way of doing it, versus if we find that maybe there's less companies but they're bigger, then there's another way of doing it. So any feedback is welcome as soon as possible.
So I'm hearing sponsorship as a big topic at one of our next, what does that look like, and what is the feedback from the community with respect to the sponsorship package? What do we say? Because Claire's won't be able to afford 10,000, but Claire's would definitely afford 1,000. I'm saying Claire's because I love Claire. Who would like to volunteer to host the next meeting in their neighborhood, which would require getting the meeting room available, and we have the date and time, so just getting a meeting room.
Invite people.
And invite people. Dawn is going to have the next meeting.
Career High School.
Sounds like Career High School cafeteria will be the next location of our next meeting.
Easy on, easy off.
And then we'll talk to you at the end of January. So, you don't gotta leave, but the meeting's over.
And please sign in if you haven't.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
That's fun. Short meetings, yeah. Little standards. Yeah.
A lot of people never
Yeah, it took me, the first time I didn't be staring at that police station. I was like, alright, so like, take it a half hour, try and get it a 24 hours. So that was like before the so that was like, I gotta So I work with statewide organization called Point before I lived here in Cleveland, I worked in South Korea. So that'd be nice. Yeah, I worked with their assistants on 16
John, do you have something to write down? You don't have any paper with you could put it in your smartphone.
Yeah.
On a smartphone.
Are good. I'm going to do this right now. I'm going to literally forward you the email with so this is the email. Whenever my dad has links and the attachment. So I'm just going to forward it straight to you. What's your email?
Chambers
Cool.
He was so surprised when I finally got a hold of him. He was working long hours. He's still working. He's 77. He's still working. And he just had his motorcycle still motorcycle. And but it's a nice climb. Las Vegas. I called him up the other day. He was so surprised. He was like, he reminded me the story about George. I heard the story years ago. But
my dad, I told my dad about it. He wants to meet you and chat with you.
Oh, yeah.
I think I met him.
Yeah, I think I did. On the Isabel John Roberts memorial service at Tommy's house, I think it was, in Minnesota.
I mentioned that to my dad.
Tom Hart, okay,
yeah. Either way, we should. I mean, do you work?
Well, I'll be working till I'm
good for you.
Because that's my work is my
yeah, well, we should find a time, something like morning or something.
Seriously?
Yeah, and if I tell him to come over.
Yeah, although I was thinking what you were saying, I mean, it would be great to have a bike, and that's not the problem. It's a suicidal ride from doing good or would not.
Your email was chambers. Awesome. Oh, Bob, good to see you. Glad I caught you.
Small world. Yeah, I was thinking,
That's incredible.
I guess technically you guys are second cousins. You know, it's like your father and he are first cousins. So what does that make you? All right, so I mean, there's people like me like the same relationship. Yeah, so I just call them cousins. So, you know, I've known Grandpa for probably over 40 years. We've taken transcontinental road trips together. Okay. Just get in the car and, you know, drive to the west. All the way in the other direction in 73. So it's so it's got to be 43 years ago. We took a trip to the furthest eastern point on the island of Newfoundland. That was our first big long voyage. Yeah, it's amazing.
Thanks. I just realized that. We've been on camera.
I hope you guys said everything you meant to say.
Oh, yeah. I didn't mean that when I said about Doug.